Sehr geehrte Frau Bundespräsidentin, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. Die anwesenden Präsidentinnen und Präsidenten werden sich nun zur Konferenz und zur Abschlusserklärung äußern. The Presidents will now comment on the summit and the final declaration. Frau Bundespräsidentin, Sie haben das Wort.
Ja, besten Dank, Exzellenzen, meine Damen und Herren. Dieses Wochenende sind hier auf dem Bürgenstock gewichtige Stimmen aus allen Kontinenten zusammengekommen. Die breit abgestützte Teilnahme zeugt davon, dass der Krieg in der Ukraine die internationale Gemeinschaft bewegt. Und sie zeugt vom Willen dieser Staaten, gemeinsam einen Weg zum Frieden zu zeichnen. Die Perspektiven und Ausgangspositionen sind unterschiedlich. Umso wichtiger war dieses Treffen, das einen breiten Austausch ermöglichte. Über Monate war die Rede vom Krieg, von Waffenlieferungen, von militärischer Unterstützung. Nun haben wir über Frieden gesprochen. Zum ersten Mal an einem derart hochrangigen Treffen mit so vielen Staaten und Organisationen. Dass sich die weit überwiegende Mehrheit der hier versammelten Staaten auf das gemeinsame Bürgenstock-Kommuniqué verständigt hat, zeigt, was Diplomatie in geduldiger Arbeit erreichen kann. Die Zustimmung zu diesem Ansatz habe ich auch in den vielen Gesprächen gespürt, die ich hier persönlich führen konnte. In den Themen nukleare Sicherheit, Ernährungssicherheit und menschliche Dimension haben wir uns geeinigt, dass Schritte zum Aufbau von Vertrauen möglich sind. Diese Themen sind für zahlreiche Staaten von großer Bedeutung, teilweise auch für solche, die weit entfernt liegen vom Kriegsgebiet. Für diese 3 Themenbereiche haben wir im Bürgenstock-Kommuniqué einen klaren Rahmen festgeschrieben, in dem die weiteren Diskussionen stattfinden müssen. Es ist unsere gemeinsame Vision, wie wir in der Ukraine Frieden erreichen wollen. Es sind die konkreten Ziele, die wir uns gesteckt haben und für die wir uns alle engagieren werden. Erstens muss jede Nutzung von Kernenergie und Kernanlagen sicher, geschützt, überwacht und umweltverträglich sein. Zweitens sind Angriffe auf Handelsschiffe in Häfen und entlang der gesamten Route sowie auf zivile Häfen und zivile Hafeninfrastruktur nicht hinnehmbar. Drittens müssen sämtliche Kriegsgefangenen im Rahmen eines vollständigen Gefangenenaustauschs freigelassen werden. Alle abgeschobenen und unrechtmäßig verschleppten ukrainischen Kinder und alle anderen unrechtmäßig festgehaltenen ukrainischen Zivilpersonen müssen in die Ukraine zurückgebracht werden. Meine Damen und Herren, angesichts der unterschiedlichen Ausgangspositionen ist es eine Leistung, dass diese Konferenz hochrangig und breit abgestützt stattfand und dass hier auf dem Bürgenstock ein gemeinsamer Positionsbezug zustande kam. Der gemeinsame Nenner, welchen die Staaten über diplomatische Arbeit und intensive Diskussionen gefunden haben, sind Voraussetzung, um gemeinsam den weiteren Weg zu gehen. Diese Ausgangslage gilt es jetzt zu nutzen. Ein gerechter und dauerhafter Frieden in der Ukraine ist elementar für die Menschen in den Kriegsgebieten und für alle, die von den Konsequenzen des Krieges direkt betroffen sind. Für die ganze Welt muss gelten, dass die internationalen Beziehungen auf Regeln beruhen, auf dem Völkerrecht und der Charta der Vereinten Nationen. Das ist die Zukunft, auf die wir hinarbeiten müssen. Die Schweiz wird im Prozess in Richtung Frieden in der Ukraine weiterhin eine aktive Rolle wahrnehmen. Unser Engagement bleibt. Die internationale Staatengemeinschaft kennt die Tradition der Schweiz und ihre guten Dienste. Die Welt darf darauf vertrauen, dass wir uns weiterhin für einen Frieden in der Ukraine einsetzen, wie wir es auch an diesem Wochenende auf dem Bürgenstock getan haben. Besten Dank.
President Zelenskyy, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Madam President of Switzerland, Mr. President of Chile, Madam President of the European Commission, Mr. Prime Minister of Canada, and I hope that our friend from Ghana will come. And everyone who really wants the war to end. I thank all the participants of the first Peace Summit for taking the first steps towards peace together. We are responding to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, not only with a full-scale defense of human life, but also with full-scale diplomacy. These days, united 101 countries and international organizations, big success for Ukraine and for all partners. And our fair objective is to get all countries of the world join this noble cause. Previous political generations have left us the UN Charter as a basis for the cooperation of peoples. We will pass to the next generations an effective mechanism to implement the UN Charter, and the communiqué adopted at the summit these days fully reflects our intention and remains open for accession by everyone who respects the UN Charter. It's important that all participants of the summit supported Ukraine's territorial integrity, because there will be no lasting peace without territorial integrity. The three challenges have been analyzed in detail at the first Peace Summit: nuclear safety, food security, and the release of prisoners and deportees, including thousands of children abducted by Russia. And now, after the summit, we proposed and agreed to continue our joint work at a more technical level, at the level of advisors and ministers, in the format of special meetings under the leadership or core leadership of countries. Each step toward a just peace has attracted the attention of the certain groups of summit participants and countries that have not yet joined but are interested in peace. And we agreed to start to work in a special after-summit groups on specific ideas, proposals and developments that can restore security in various aspects, exactly as it worked at the level of advisors during the preparation of the first Peace Summit. We already have preliminary agreements with countries such as France, Czechia, Turkey, Kenya, Saudi Arabia and the United States, Norway, Poland, Canada, Qatar, Chile, Ghana, Finland, Netherlands, Germany, United Kingdom, to host the work of the groups, to lead and co-lead. And we invite all countries that recognize the binding nature of the UN Charter as the basis for the cooperation of nations to participate in groups and express their ideas and proposals. I'm confident that together we will ensure the result. The first and the second Peace Summits should unite our joint work on the details of peace. We are at a war and we don't have time for prolonged work. Moving to peace means acting fast. Preparations will take months, not years. So, when the action plans for peace are ready and when every step is worked out, the path will be opened for the second Peace Summit and thus for ending this war, for a just and lasting peace. We already have countries who indicated their interest to host the second Peace Summit, and we started talks with them. I am confident that the choice will have truly global significance, and I am grateful for everyone who helps. Thank you so much, Madam President. Thank you very much. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Thank you very much. President of Chile, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, everyone here. This Summit for Peace
marks the beginning of a significant process. For the first time, numerous global leaders from all continents and different political ideas have convened to discuss peace rather than war. This summit represents a beacon of hope and serves as a catalyst for fostering enduring peace dialogues. We totally endorse the joint communiqué that we have approved, and the purpose of this gathering, it's really important. Chile, my country, as a small nation in the south of the world, with a population of 20 million inhabitants, understands that only adherence to international law and the protection of human rights can ensure peace. This summit and these convictions are not about NATO. This is not about right or left political ideas. This is not about northern or southern countries. This is about respect of international law and human rights as foundational principles of our living together. And this is applicable in Ukraine, in Gaza, and in every other conflict in the world. Children everywhere have to be protected. We cannot allow that any country abducts or kidnaps children, as Russia is doing nowadays with Ukrainian child. Civilians must not be damaged. We need urgent action to protect their rights because they cannot wait. The forthcoming steps of these summits are crucial. We aspire that Russia and Ukraine soon engage in dialogue with respect of territorial integrity of Ukraine, international law, and the firm commitment to human rights as a fundamental standard. From Chile, we will keep on supporting this process to achieve peace and prevent further conflicts.
Präsidentin von der Leyen, Sie haben das Wort.
Liebe Frau Präsidentin Amherd, liebe Viola, President Zelenskyy, dear Volodymyr, first of all, thank you for organizing this important conference. It is testament to the skills of the Swiss diplomacy that you were able to bring together some 100 countries and international organizations at the highest level, including the esteemed Presidents Akufo-Addo, Boric, and Prime Minister Trudeau. This high-level attendance shows one thing. The world cares deeply about the war provoked by Russia's aggression. The war blatantly violates international law and key principles of the UN Charter, and it has major negative impacts on countries across the globe, be it in food security, access to energy, or international trade. And time and again, speakers yesterday and today emphasized this impact on their economies. And so it is highly significant and valuable that so many parties came to Switzerland to discuss a way out of the war. The conference was entitled Path to Peace, and rightly so, because we know that peace in Ukraine will not be achieved in one step. It will be a journey. It was not a peace negotiation because Putin is not serious about ending the war. He's insisting on capitulation. He's insisting on ceding Ukrainian territory, even territory that today is not occupied by him. He's insisting on disarming Ukraine, leaving it vulnerable to future aggression. No country would ever accept these outrageous terms. And that is why it is vital that Ukraine is able to resist this aggression, that it is right under UN Charter, and it is the right of other countries such as the European Union and many other partners across the world to support Ukraine to resist and survive. The European Union has already provided almost 100 billion euros in support to Ukraine and its people. And the G7 illustrated its steadfast determination only 2 days ago when we agreed to use the revenues of frozen Russian assets in Europe to fund a $50 billion loan to Ukraine. This is also a clear message that we will stand by Ukraine for as long as it takes. Our support and this peace summit here brings real peace closer. The goal is a just, comprehensive, and lasting peace. This would finally bring an end to the oppression and suffering of the Ukrainian people. This would reaffirm Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And this would restore the primacy of international law and the UN Charter. The path to real peace requires patience and determination. And we have always said, dear Volodymyr, ultimately, it will be for Ukraine to determine the conditions of a just peace. The European Union will support you in this, and it will continue to rally support across the globe. We can build on the UN General Assembly resolution of February 2023. It clearly expressed the need for comprehensive, just and lasting peace. This resolution was approved by 141 countries, the vast majority of whom joined this summit. And I call on Russia to heed the message of the international community, respect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine, put an end to imperialist violence, and bring back the children. When Russia says it is ready for peace based on the UN Charter, then the time will come for Russia to be part of our efforts, to bring the path to peace to its destination. And I hope and I work for this day to come soon. Thank you.
Prime Minister of Canada, you have the floor.
Merci. On conclut aujourd'hui le sommet pour la paix en Ukraine. Je veux d'abord remercier la présidente Amherd d'avoir accueilli ce sommet ici en Suisse, et je veux aussi saluer les efforts du président Zelenskyy qui continue de se battre pour la liberté et la sécurité des Ukrainiens, mais aussi de se battre pour la règle de droit à travers le monde. While Ukrainians continue to defend their country, they've also been working tirelessly to bring an end to the fighting. This summit here in Switzerland gathered countries from around the world, including from emerging economies, with the goal of finding a path to peace. Canada will always be a strong voice for peace, democracy, freedom, and the international rule of law. Our work together during the summit helped shape a joint vision for a path forward based on the UN Charter and international law, a just and lasting peace based on fundamental principles with the interests of Ukrainians at its core. We can't forget that wherever there's a war, there's human suffering. I think of the children, the soldiers and their families, the farmers, the nurses, and everyone impacted. Many countries represented in this summit have felt the legacy of wars and strife. We know how these effects can last not just years or decades, but even generations. Earlier today, I chaired a session where we talked about prisoners and deported people, including and especially children. Close to 20,000 children are estimated to have been taken from their homes, from their families, but also from their language, their culture, their identity. This is something the global community needs to pull together to call for an end to. In the coming months, Canada intends to host a foreign ministers' meeting to advance the work on the human cost of this war. Le Canada va accueillir une rencontre des ministres des Affaires étrangères pour faire avancer le travail sur l'aspect humanitaire de cette guerre. Russia's war in Ukraine also caused disruption of supply chains, price shocks, the evolution of electronic warfare, energy insecurity, the risk of nuclear disaster. and the list goes on. La guerre de la Russie en Ukraine a déjà duré bien trop longtemps. Il faut continuer et redoubler nos efforts vers une paix équitable et durable, une paix qui priorise la règle de droit et la justice et la sécurité des Ukrainiens et notre sécurité à tous. This gathering is a peace summit about Ukraine, but not just about Ukraine. It is about countries around the world coming together to stand up, protect, and reinforce the international law that keeps us all safe. Ukraine is one of the front lines of the battle around the world right now. We all need to stand together on this. Merci beaucoup.
President of Ghana, you have the floor.
Thank you. I want to begin also by thanking the President of the Swiss Confederation and President Zelenskyy of Ukraine for the invitation for Ghana to participate in this important summit on peace in Ukraine. Ghana was one of 28 African countries who joined the global majority at the General Assembly of the United Nations in condemning the Russian act of aggression. And we did so for principled reasons. We led the struggle for Africa's liberation from colonialism, imperialism, and the racist system of apartheid, because we oppose racial discrimination, great power hegemony and domination of the world, and the bullying of small states by great powers. And it is in this context that we viewed and continue to view Russia's invasion and acts of aggression. The consequences of the invasion go far beyond the confines of Europe. Indeed, in many ways, Africa has been the greatest victim of the conflict. Consideration is given to the disruption of global trade, supply chains, lines, and the blockade of the Black Sea have had devastating impacts on our economies, on our standards of living. High inflation, skyrocketing prices of foodstuffs have been some of the consequences of the invasion. And therefore, we have a vested interest in participating in efforts to find a means for the resolution of this conflict. The resolution of the conflict, in our view, has to be, like some of my colleagues have already said, based on a comprehensive, just and lasting, enduring peace, founded on the principles of international law and the United Nations Charter. It is a global imperative, finding such a peace, which affects Ghana and, I dare say, the rest of Africa. We support the objectives of this summit and support the communication that has emanated from it. But we do believe that if we're going to arrive at a definitive settlement, some method should be found whereby the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China join these deliberations. But once again, I want to express my gratitude to the two co-conveners for inviting Ghana to participate in this meeting.
Thank you very much. We end the medical conference here. Thank you for your attention. Please. No questions. The next conference will begin in 10 minutes with Mr. Zelenskyy.